Hello everybody, so some mistakes were made last episode when setting up my A2 system. I know, dun dun dun! But the big one was basically having a storage bus on this drawer access point right here. Like if we come into the crafting terminal and look for something that we know we have static stacks of, like say the aluminum blades that have 64 right here, if we slap yield storage bus back on there like that and look back in here now, you'll see that it now thinks there's 128. And that's because the drawer system is also linked to Tom Simple Storage, which is linked up to our A2 system. So it's double reporting them. So yeah, the solution is just remove that. But by now you should be used to me making mistakes in yet another episode of Statech Industry. That was it. That was really the main issue that I ran into, but I also realized I never explained why I could kill all the sheep last episode. And that's because we could just set up a pattern provider recipe that turns string from our mob farm into the wool. So yeah, it's just sheep murder time all day long around here in my base, huh? I was also complaining nonstop about how I didn't have diamonds to make one of the processors with last episode, and that's because I'm a big huge dum-dum sometimes. Because the reality is, while the only way to process diamond ore right now via automation is via the macerator, which turns into this, which turns into the dust, which we can only turn back into diamonds via the implosion compressor, but the reality is I can just slap a lever on that and turn this off. You know, if I'd actually put the redstone control in here. Yeah, there we go. Now it's turned off. And we can just take the diamond ore out of here, get out our fortune pickaxe, and just start smashing them. I forget how vanilla mechanics works sometimes, folks, and we could probably automate that with Creator. There's probably other ways as well, and yeah, this is not the crisis I thought it was. The last big thing is I finally figured out a way to viably use the destruction gadget to start clearing space in my base. You'll notice how it's, after 2 uses, the power's half gone, and this really does just rip through power like nothing. But then I realized there was something I hadn't thought of. One, the advanced wireless player charger, which you notice is empty because it's recharging the destruction gadget right now, but it's recharging it pretty slowly, even though it's the fastest wireless option I have right now. Well, that led me to dig a little bit deeper to this device right here, which honestly should be on an HV steam turbine, which I can make right now, but we'll get into why I can't in a minute. It reminded me that I have gotten a few Lapotron crystals as rewards, and those hold 10 million power, and while this recharges kind of slow also, it's still faster than the wireless one, and I can just load these up and use them as batteries with the destruction gadget, and it goes a lot longer. And as you can see, it's made it easier for me to start clearing out large chunks of my base because we're going to need it for today. Because today, even though I don't need the implosion generator, I do kind of want to start getting into making titanium. But to make titanium, we already start at the gate with one huge problem, and that's that we need titanium ore. And honestly, I do know some places to mine it. There's actually one not too far outside my base, way over to the right there. I could go dig way down and go find it. But why do that when we can just make an electric quarry that uses it to pull up the titanium as well as the moissanite ore that we've run out of, which is a problem because you need moissanite ore to make the drills because they're used in the advanced motor. Because the advanced motor has the problem with needs the magnetic steel in the steel rod, which caused me so much grief in the past episode because it requires neodymium dust. So I used a bunch of the static coins to get a whole stack of moissanite ore to turn directly into the dust, and we've got a few stacks of the crushed dust here, as well as some being manually processed over here. I probably should have set up the production process for this now though, because we're about to go automate the whole thing. But first, some more smashing. And with that in place, all we really need to do now is set up the assembler to actually make the stainless steel drill, since I've already made the subcomponents for it. We just need to lock it all in. Oh, and you know, probably turn down the number of motors that it uses so we're not caching too many, because those are very, very expensive, and the pumps as well, and the digital circuits. And just like that, we now have this stainless steel drill being made. So the only thing really left to do is set up a new quarry, except I kind of left myself a mess back here because I really didn't organize my recycler stack all that well, because this trash can's kind of sitting where I would need to put the quarries. But I can always expand this out, so I guess we just move over a couple and put the quarries in here. Suppose I can also like destroy this whole bank and replace it with an MV turbine, huh? Alright, so I've got this set up now, and I decided to add another bank of recyclers just to make this go a bit faster. I have no idea if this is actually useful long term, but I can always repurpose it to UU matter. But I got the quarry set up, and it's going pretty fast. It's now at max overclock, and it seems to be going okay. It only generates a couple ore per trip through the cycle, so I'm probably going to end up having to overclock this up pretty high. While doing this, I did discover some more inefficiencies in my base, and I made some fixes in some places. One of those was I finally made the advanced wireless block charger, which required making the Canthal cables, which wasn't hard, it just required setting up. And then I have the means to make an HV steam turbine, but this seems to be feeding this no problem. There's no real loss on this. We're not losing power on these machines. It's just using that dent right there. So I should probably try overclocking this and see how this turns out. Because so far, we're basically not really creating a backlog of anything other than the titanium for some reason. Maybe I'm not outputting that into a drawer like I should be. It looks like it's working properly, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And to be clear, this doesn't get rendered down directly into dust like the other steps do. This has to be processed in an EBF with manganese sulfuric solution. You know, the stuff we make up here in our liquids lab to make manganese. That we do apparently have a backlog of, so we just need to get this out of the system and down to an EBF to actually use it. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like I'm getting to the point that Threefold got during his DragTech New Horizons series, where filming this stuff isn't necessarily the most enthralling because it feels like I'm making the same machines that I've been making this whole time over and over and over and over in every single episode, and y'all have seen it all before. So I guess let me get another EBF set up, huh? Oh, and look at who forgot to clear out the area that he needed to work in today. Oops. And we have a new problem. I made an HV steam turbine to try to get the charge mat to power things up faster, but if we actually run an HV steam turbine and then go check our steam supplies back here, you can see that we're actually losing steam. It appears to be going up right now, so something must have turned off, but overall, like, you can see the gap at the top where it's slowly coming back. So for now, I added redstone controls and the means to turn this off if I need to, but I'm gonna have to do something. I want my power back there. I wanted to reorganize that to put the generators against the back wall anyways, and maybe we can move the steam tank somewhere else. Well, you know what? I realized the scrap box was probably a good idea early on because it does dump titanium dust out. What I didn't realize was exactly how much titanium dust I'd been getting. This actually, that's actually not an insignificant amount because this can be EBF'd straight into the hot ingots as well as the raw. All right, so I've got this set up now, but this is another case of nothing is ever easy anymore. Because while it was mostly the same to set up as normal and we have our titanium hot ingots coming out here, in here we've got our raw titanium, which I did figure out there's a big difference between the raw titanium and the dust. This does not require the manganese, and I'm going to be setting up another EBF to handle it. Because the manganese is actually a bit of a problem, because while we've got it coming in here, you notice that there's a pipe coming out under it. And that's because this gets recycled during the job and we get part of the fluid back. There is a little bit of a loss, but we do need to pipe it back in here. So what I've done was set this pipe to a higher priority, set the entangled tank to a negative one so it only pulls out of here if it needs to. Otherwise it dumps it back into the advanced fluid input hatch. Now I just need to hide all this again and make it all nice and neat and pretend it's not actually happening. And, you know, set up that second EBF. But now we just need to set up another vacuum freezer to process them very slowly into normal titanium ingots. That said, we do have the alternative of making a heat exchanger at this point, but this requires making cryofluid, which is the argon that we're making upstairs as a byproduct of another thing, and then helium, which I'm not sure if we have or not, honestly. Oh yeah, we totally do, because it's a byproduct of moissanite dust, and I'm probably just dumping it right now. So I think I'm just going to make the vacuum freezer for now, because I don't need it to be fast, because we don't need much titanium. Not to mention that the heat exchanger is a big, chunky, expensive beast, because it requires a bunch of stainless steel pipe machine casing. We can do this, but it's a lot. Like, it's pretty big here. So I don't feel like dealing with coolant or that right now, and like I said, we don't need it quickly at this point. There, I did the thing, okay? I did it. We've got titanium now, right? I mean, we've got titanium very, very slowly, because this does not produce very quickly. But the flip side was I already had a very tiny amount in here already anyways, so now we technically have 8. But that does at least open up a bunch of other things up here, because now we can make the new tank. Not that I've made any of the old ones really. We've got a new barrel that I'm not going to use. We've got Labrador crystals, which I could do if I really needed more, which I'm currently draining out my whole energy supply to do, and a new tank that I'm probably not going to use. But we have some new tools as well, including the Nanosaber, which mostly just requires the Lapatron crystal. You know what? That realistically is probably what all of these require. Yeah. And the Lapatron crystal actually isn't too bad to make at this point. The main thing we need is polyethylene, which we have, titanium plates, which we can make, an energy crystal, which the main thing here that we haven't done before would be the synthetic redstone crystal, which is just a diamond into molten redstone, which we can do. Yeah, maybe we should go bang these out, huh? That actually sounds kind of interesting. Well, I pretty much immediately ran into a problem before I even got started. I noticed that my steam tank here was completely empty because I replaced a few other spots with HV steam turbines and advanced wireless chargers, and that apparently put too much of a strain on the system. So I had to rebuild this room to put the boilers back here. There's now 3 of them running, 2 of them on coke dust, 1 on lignite. Hopefully we can sustain the load from that, but with the Powerlight 7 I should be fine. I'm probably going to just rip out this wall here when I finish remodeling the next door room and get all the stuff out of there, so I can just run a whole bank of these down here. It may actually be worthwhile just to embed them in this wall, but I'll have to deal with this steam tank at some point because this is just not well placed. This is just a cramped mess. And for some reason that still ran out immediately at one point there. So I'm gonna have to figure out a better distribution method too, I think, because that just, something keeps pulling it all out and it immediately refills, which is probably not good. I probably have steam turbines just constantly restarting upstairs somewhere. All right, so I've gotten started on automating the Lapatron crystals, and it required I do something a little bit different. It also forced me to rethink how I was creating some of the things I was already doing with the Tom Simple storage. So for example, I now have this assembler right here that is set up to make other assemblers. Because I don't really want to passively create assemblers at this point. I was always having to keep like 4 when I can just on demand ask for them now. There'll be a little bit of wait time, but that's not that big of a deal. The bigger issue is they won't overclock, they won't speed up. I could probably use these assemblers for more than one recipe, but given the slowness of them at that point, I think I'm better off like single purposing them. The other thing that I did is both the energy crystal and Lapatron crystal require polyethylene, and it felt just leaving the machines with polyethylene piped into them was probably not a good idea. So I finally got around to making a fluid storage cell relatively small because I don't want to keep a ton of polyethylene in the system right now. I've got a bigger tank for that because it's used elsewhere. And I used the cell workbench to dedicate it to polyethylene only, so this is the only thing that can be loaded into this cell. To get it over here, I used the Entangle tank that pipes out of it and put an importer on it to pull it in the small amounts that we need in our inventory system, where we can now straight up see the polyethylene in our ME terminal. So now that's all that's really necessary to be done is manually make the items. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's all those tools. And it looks like I could make the nano suit now too. I don't see any real surprises. If anything, I'm past that point. Yes, the quantum suit that I'm nowhere near making. But let's go down here and let's start charging up the sword and see how it does. Because I'm not actually sure how much damage this thing does. Let's activate it. And let's go find some trouble, if I can even find trouble near my base anymore. Hello, Mr. Skeleton. Let's see how quickly you die. That was pretty quick. Well, it looks like I'm one-shotting most things that I'm running into right. Well, not zombies, but I can seem to enchant it, which sharpness 4 seems like a good step. So, no fortune, but that's still not bad for an active weapon. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about this, but I do have a new beat stick, I guess, for now. I'm gonna have to try to get fortune 3 on it yet still, but at least this is a start. Anyway, we had a pretty productive day today, and we probably should go collect all our loot, since I don't think I collected all of the digital era's loot from Applied Energistics either, so we hopefully should be able to get some decent stuff today. I don't know why I keep coming down here, because like that terminal's not where I actually check things in anymore, is it? Yep, we have quite a lot to turn in. And, you know, maybe we should pick up a couple other things while we're here. Because things like the titanium tank are relatively easy to make, as is the barrel. There we go, slightly better. So let's mash the button and see what we get. That is a lot of stuff. And more Lapatron crystals. Well, we got a whole lot of components, but it looks like the main things we got was an industrial storage unit, which I don't really feel the need to use. A tier 1 rover from Ad Astra that doesn't have any fuel. Some Ostrom ingots, which might let us jump some content. a bunch of fluid cell housings, but no actual memory in them. And not one, but 2 brimstone claymores, which may or may not be better than the Nanosaber. And that is mighty impressive. I was even trying to dual wield them. You know, I was trying to be fancy for the ending, but it won't let me do 2 of them. Anyhow, if you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.